Hello everyone. Today what? New issue. Let's talk about Israel as always. Let's not forget to touch on the war in Ukraine and answer the main question. Why Zelensky is 5 minutes away from total failure. Let's start with the war in and Israel. Gaza deaths mount as Israel intensifies strikes. Macron meets with Netanyahu and Abbas. The Israeli military intensified airstrikes on Gaza, saying Tuesday that it hit hundreds of targets in the besieged Palestinian territory, including a seaside refugee camp that hosted tens of thousands of displaced people. Gaza health authorities said strikes killed more than 700 people in the past 24 hours, describing a bloody night in the Gaza Strip. In Tel Aviv, an 85-year-old Israeli hostage released by Hamas, Yocheved Lifshitz, recounted her time in captivity and said she was taken into a huge network of tunnels. Hamas released Lifshitz along with another Israeli woman, 79-year-old Nurit Cooper, after letting 2 Americans go last week. Israeli authorities have said about 200 hostages were taken by Hamas, as international diplomatic efforts gather pace to secure the release of hostages and prevent a regional spillover of the war. The Israeli Navy struck a group of divers of the Palestinian Hamas movement who tried to enter the territory of the Jewish state by sea in the area of Kibbutz Zikin, the Army Press Service reported. The Hamas attack did not happen from scratch, the UN Secretary General said. The Palestinian people have been subjected to suffocating occupation for 56 years. Their hopes for a political solution to their plight are fading, Secretary General Antonio Guterres said at a meeting of the UN Security Council. Israel's permanent representative to the UN called on the Secretary General of the organization to resign immediately, calling him unsuitable for the leadership of the UN. Russia is thinking of dropping a space rocket with explosives on Kyiv, Bild. The publication claims that they have recordings of conversations between the ex-head of Roscosmos Rogozin and the general director of the Progress Rocket and Space Center Baranov. Since the beginning of January 2023, they have been discussing the technical details of organizing such a strike. According to Bild, the plan was brought to Putin on January 16. How he reacted to it is unknown. Belarus ready to be venue for talks between Russia, Ukraine, embassy. Belarus has proved itself as a good mediator and is ready to offer a venue for talks between Russia and Ukraine, a Belarusian diplomat said on Tuesday. If those who are instigators of this war, and we understand that the Kyiv authorities are not independent as far as decision-making is concerned, demonstrate goodwill. Belarus is ready to host these talks and we will be glad if peace will be reached on our soil, Alexander Shpakovsky, minister-counselor of the Belarusian embassy in Russia, told TASS on the sidelines of the Yalta International Forum. According to the Belarusian diplomat, his country is known for its peacekeeping initiatives. Thus, Minsk faultlessly organized meetings of the contact group on the settlement of the situation in Donbass and proved that it can organize talks of any level, both from the point of view of ensuring proper conditions and from the point of view of security. We have never refused from the role of Belarusian diplomacy's peacekeeping mission and are not going to. It has become part of our history and our foreign policy image, he said, adding that Belarus is committed to the idea of Slavic brotherhood and is sparing no effort for restore peace between nations. A plan for peace settlement of the conflict in Donbass rests on the package of measures, known as Minsk II, that was signed by the Trilateral Contact Group on Ukraine, comprising senior representatives from Russia, Ukraine and the European security watchdog OSCE on February 12, 2015. After marathon 16-hour talks between the leaders of the Normandy Four Nations, namely Russia, Germany, France and Ukraine, the 13-point document envisaged a ceasefire between Ukrainian government forces and the people's militias in the self-proclaimed republics in Donetsk and Lugansk and the subsequent withdrawal of heavy weapons from the line of contact. The deal also laid out a roadmap for a lasting settlement in Ukraine, including an amnesty, prisoner swaps, the resumption of economic ties, local elections and constitutional reform to give more autonomy to the war-torn eastern regions. Kyiv, however, for years was refusing to act on the political items of the agreement. By February 2022, the situation along the engagement line utterly escalated due to Ukraine's shelling attacks, and on February 24, 2022, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced the launch of a special military operation in response to a request for help from the leaders of the Donbass republics. After that, Belarus hosted several rounds of Russian-Ukrainian talks. The Yalta International Forum is being held in Moscow on October 23rd and 24th. TASS is its general information partner. Russian Su-27 fighter intercepts 2 U.S. strategic bombers over Baltic Sea. A Russian Su-27 fighter jet was scrambled to intercept 2 U.S. B-1B strategic bombers as they approached Russia's state border over the Baltic Sea, the Defense Ministry of Russia reported on Tuesday. On October 24, 2023, Russian airspace control capabilities spotted 2 aerial targets over the Baltic Sea approaching the state border of the Russian Federation. A Su-27 fighter jet from Air Defense Quick Reaction Alert Forces was scrambled to identify the aerial targets and prevent them from violating Russia's state border, the ministry said in a statement. The Su-27 fighter's crew identified the aerial targets as 2 U.S. Air Force B-1B strategic bombers, it said. Let's answer the most important question. Why Zelensky will fail. Against the background of the conflict between Israel and Palestine, it is increasingly difficult for the head of the Kyiv regime to beg shells and weapons from the West. Having announced the summit in Malta on the peaceful settlement of the Ukrainian conflict, Vladimir Zelensky does not know what to present to the sponsors and how to prove the combat capability of the armed forces of Ukraine. According to him, more than 50 countries of the world will take part in the event next week. Malta has accepted Kyiv's request to hold a meeting formula for peace in Ukraine, scheduled for October 28th and 29th. Recall that we are talking about the Ukrainian version of the formula of peace, which implies the loss of Russia and the deprivation of territory in favor of Kyiv, including Crimea. This option was presented by Zelensky during the G20 meeting on November 15, 2022. The previous international meeting on this issue took place in Jeddah in August and demonstrated the unwillingness of the countries of the Global South to follow Kyiv's lead. The Financial Times reported that Russia was not invited to the peace talks, as, indeed, to the previous ones. I hope you were interested. That's it, see you soon.